I 34F have been with Ken 37 male since I was 16. We met in school as he was my brother's friend. We have been married for 10 years. Have a 2-year-old son and one on the way. Ken has always been my person. The person who you can't picture life without, and I honestly can't remember not loving him. I grew up with him, he's my everything. Unfortunately, Ken has this issue where he takes on everyone else's feelings like to heart. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, however recently his best friend of 20 years has just found out that his wife has been cheating on him and none of the children are his. Obviously his friend is devastated and is staying in our guest room. He's a nice guy, just life has him down right now. He's started the process of divorce. The more time Ken spends with his friend, the more depressed he's become. And distant. Our mornings used to start where I would wake up at 6 a.m. with our son, make breakfast, then about 8 a.m. I could wake Ken up with a coffee and some breakfast before going to drop little one off at nursery and go to work. Ken works from home most days, only going into the office on a Monday. So I'd give him his coffee, he'd give me a kiss, and then I'd go off on my happy little way. Then I'd finish work, get our son and go home where Ken would be making tea. I'd clean up after whilst he was bathing our son and putting him to bed. I thought this was life. It might sound boring to some, but it was my life and I loved it. Our house was filled with love. We would spend our nights cuddling, talking, watching a movie. Date night once a month. We would take our son out together on a Saturday and then Sunday go visit family or have friends over. You get the picture, I'm rambling. Sorry. Anyway, for the past month things have been changing. Ken is more depressed. I make him a coffee in the morning and just get a mumble, "Thanks." I'd see Ome home from work and the friend and him would be in the living room watching sports. I'm now making tea. Bathing our son, neither of them will barely talk to me. We don't go out on the weekends together, I feel like a single parent. I've tried to talk to Ken about it all, but I get one-worded answers. Then he stays up till about 1 a.m., which I know it's not super late, but I'm passed out by then. I'm exhausted, alone and pregnant. I miss my husband. Yesterday I came home from work and you know when something just doesn't feel right? Well, I went to find Ken to see what he was doing as his friend wasn't in the house, but Ken's car was. He was in his office looking up DNA kits for our son. I asked him why and his response was, "Well, I just want to make sure all the kids are mine before I continue looking after them, as I'm not a free childcare." This broke me. When I say I'm devastated, it's an understatement. But if he thinks that I've cheated on him, then surely the trust is gone? Is there any going back? Am I just being pregnant and hormonal? Would I be extreme for looking for a divorce? I could put the papers in the envelope with the results from the DNA test. I think I'm gonna go cry in bed now. Had to take the day off work as I feel like I've just been gut punched. Azorgi01, your husband's feelings are being fed from his friend. Working from home a lot disconnects you from being social, and the only social activity he gets is depression from his friend. This friend has to go, and once he does, you two can work on getting back on track the way you were. You really need to explain this to him and he should understand. These are all actions of the other person, not your husband, if that makes sense. Get through this and you two can be that much stronger, but as long as this other person is around, I feel it will only get worse. Update 1. Weird how telling complete strangers that I'm struggling with life seems to help. So I think after my pity party, which couldn't last long due to being a parent, I called my stepmom and dad. My mom died when I was 10, they are coming to stay with me on Friday. Crying on the phone helped, although I'm not really sure they could truly understand a word of what I was saying. I've spoken to Ken, well, more like spoke at Ken, telling him that his friend is till Thursday to leave. I'm not a monster and can't just tell him to leave at the drop of a hat. I've also told Ken he needs to leave too. Whilst yes, I could go to my dad's house, I don't want to disrupt my little one more than needed, and all the things for my baby is here too. Especially as I'm 8 months along, it just seems stupid for me to be the one to leave. I've made it a point of not pointing out it's my house either. I'm trying to be calm and sensible. I'm not 100% sure Ken listened, but I did message his sister, who is a force to be reckoned with, and she said she will make sure he's gone by Thursday night. Things I've told Ken I want is, yes, he can have the DNA test, but I will be damned if I'm the one to do it. He can also have one for the baby, as I ain't got shit to hide. I know that some people have questioned why I'm so against it. Let me make something clear. I would never cheat because, as I said in my last post, Ken is / or was I to know, my person. He's the only man I've ever been with. So that isn't any concern of mine. I'm just hurt that he wants one because clearly he doesn't trust me. So things I want. I want him to have the DNA tests mainly so I can make him eat the results. Not literally, I'm just venting. I'm also going to suggest couples therapy. I already see one due to losing my mom and my little sister in a car crash when I was little. I want to suggest he sees one alone, but you can lead a horse to water but can't make him drink it. I don't want to force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. I want him to maintain contact with our son. Yes, he doesn't believe he's the father right now, but that's no reason he should neglect him, as he's his and I don't want to upset my son. Yeah, he's only 2, but still he deserves all the love from both his parents. He's done nothing wrong. Then obviously this one when he or she comes along. Still not sure about the state of my marriage, but even if divorce is what happens, I need to be able to get through to him so he can be the father he was. Am I going insane? Do I sound insane? I don't know why writing here helps so much. Update 2. Following my 2 other posts, I will answer some questions. Yes, it is my house. It was left to me when my mom died. I have lived here all my life. I didn't move out because I have a child and one on the way, so why should I be the one to leave? I get that some people believe I was the off for asking him to leave, but as I was heavily pregnant, have a toddler and it's my house, I wasn't about to leave. Yes, he could have stayed, but have you tried living with someone who just wants to argue or just not talk? I'd prefer my child not to live in that environment. Thank you. At the end of the day, I'm a mother first and a wife second. If you think that's harsh, then I don't know what to tell you. My children come first. End of. Well, Ken's friend did leave the day I told him he had till Thursday. He wasn't happy about it and shouted some insults at me, which was amazing. Ken's sister came and picked up Ken. I wish I could tell you what she said, but she didn't say anything in front of me, just kept giving Ken death stares. We did get the DNA test for little one and Ken is the father, obviously. Ken somehow thinks I've intercepted the results even though I wasn't the one that did it. I wasn't the one that got handed the results, so he's clearly lost his mind. My dad came over and whilst I was making tea my waters broke. My little girl is here, she healthy and happy. She was 9 pounds 8 ounces, so no concern of anything with her. I'm now a mom of 2. I am home now and Ken has been to see his baby girl, although as she's not had a DNA test he disagrees with her being is because his family. Why doesn't have many girls yet? He has a sister, so I just rolled my eyes. I don't really know where to go from here. Ken is refusing therapy. He says there's nothing wrong with him or his brain. I beg to differ. He wants to get another DNA test for our boy but won't tell me when or where, so I can't interfere. Maybe one day he will come to his senses. My dad and stepmom are staying with me for a while to help me with the babies. I'd like to say I'm okay, but honestly my emotions are all over the show. I don't know which was his up. Ken's sister visits the babies and we have an unspoken rule that we don't speak about Ken apart from when our son asks about him. I wish it was the kind of update where he got the results, seen how much of an idiot he's been and we move on, but sadly that's not the case. I can't dwell on it too much, just take shit one day at a time. I do miss my person and worry that he's missing out on his baby girl's life already, which if I think about too much I will just sit and cry, but I don't have time for that. As always, thanks for listening to me rant. I might update if anything else happens in my life. Right now I'm still left wondering if I'm doing the right thing here. Is there anything I could do differently? Why are my kids so hard for him to accept all of a sudden? Orthodox path 2, I think he's either projecting or having a mental breakdown. It's gotta be one or the other. I'd tell his sister to tell him to get help or it's over. I'd make it clear if he doesn't go to therapy/counseling or whatever that a divorce is imminent. Orthodox path 2, I'm starting to think it might be a total mental breakdown and his friend egged it on. I can't imagine what would cause such a sudden switch in personality otherwise. Post username, I think he is now in denial because he wants to not be the father, otherwise he screwed up his whole life for nothing and that would be more dangerous to him than being depressed. BC, his wife cheated, but at least be validated, but also is it possible to have DNA result in 4 days? Update 3. Things have been bizarre, but now I have closure. I know what's happened to my marriage. I know what scum Ken really is. He's not my person and never truly was. So now I just want to divorce him, cut my losses and move on with my life. I'm still at home with my babies settling into motherhood. My dad and stepmom are still here, but they will be leaving soon once I'm more emotionally stable. To say I'm okay would be a lie, but I now know what I need to do. I have some sort of closure with Ken. I know what happened with him and I know that it's not my fault. Turns out Ken was having an affair and has a baby on the way. Even typing that makes me want to throw up. I found this out when a visibly pregnant lady just knocked on my door and asked me when I would be leaving the house, as it's Ken's house. When I say this confused the crap out of me, I mean it. I talked to this woman for a while to try to work out what she was talking about. It turns out that she's Ken's side piece. Well, technically in her head she's his fiancée. A month ago Ken got down on one knee and proposed to her in my fucking kitchen. Classy, right? So they have been seeing each other for a while. She's having his baby. She believes I'm the ex-wife who Ken is letting him stay in his house till I get on my feet. We apparently broke up a few years ago and none of my kids are Ken's. When I go to work in the mornings Ken goes to her house and works from there. They were waiting for marriage to move in together. How you trying to marry someone when you're already married? Fucking weirdo. I asked for proof of all this. She has pictures of them together. Apparently she has a account that they make content together. I told her we are still married and explained everything to her. I'm not sure what she's going to do. But hey, not my circus, not my monkey. Now I want a divorce. Is it true that once you talk to a solicitor about divorce they can't represent the purse on your divorce? I want to go around our town and meet with as many solicitors as possible, as the first hour is free so that he has a very hard time getting representation. Is that too petty? The house is in my name only and is protected, so there is no way he can take it. I have all my money and we do have a joint account, but that's just what we put our share of household bills in. I haven't spoken directly with Ken. His family have completely cut him off and he's been kicked out of his sister's house. All those people that was concerned about him having tumor or something wrong with his brain, I really don't think that's the case. I think his actions just caught up to him as his lies were going to come out once his baby was born. I think that's what happened. He got backed into a corner and tried to fight his way out. Through divorce process I will get the court to do DNA testing so he has proof for both. even if he chooses to not believe it. I'm mentally exhausted from all of this and sat wondering how I didn't notice. Might have to go for an eye test. But honestly, would I be so wrong for just making his life as difficult as possible to get legal advice, or is that too far? I want him to suffer. Juliax 1984. I'm a legal assistant. When I worked for the state, we would have a lot of opponents representing themselves without lawyers, either to save money or because the opponent was an insane conspiracy theorist. You might think the attorneys I worked for would be glad when their opponent had no attorney because that makes for an easy win, right? Wrong. Our opponent having no attorney and no idea what they were doing just made the process overly complicated and painful and annoying and dragged it out. True, there are insane conspiracy theorist attorneys out there, too, but the vast majority of the time, once the defendant realized they were in over their head and hired an attorney, it made the process go smoother and faster. I know nothing about divorce court, but I hypothesize sabotaging his attempts to get an attorney will make the ordeal worse for you, too. You have proof of infidelity, the house was acquired before the marriage, you have this in the bag already. Just go through the motions of serving the paperwork, letting time pass, etc. The less shenanigans anyone causes, the smoother and faster it will go. I don't know if STBX has a motive to drag the process out, but preventing or delaying him finding an attorney is no protection against that. Update 4. I'm okay. I totally just forgot about my ramblings on here, lol. I'm doing okay. I'm officially divorced from Ken. It took a long time to get to this part of my life, and at some points I actually felt like I was drowning. Both of my kids had a DNA test through the courts and they are Ken's. He still doesn't believe it. Not my problem though. Ken is now in prison for domestic abuse. I'm not 100% on the details because I wasn't involved. It was his side piece. I'd love to say that sometimes I don't break down in tears and I'm completely over it. But I'm not. I've now gone back to work though after my maternity leave was finished. I got a promotion. And now I'm used to living with just us three. My kids keep me going and I'm so proud of them. They go visit their grandparents and dad's side of the family and they have been so lovely and supportive. His sister is still amazing. I don't really know what else to say. Just I'm okay. I'm divorced and my children are thriving. I can't thank Ken for a lot of things, but I'm grateful for my children. Now on to second story. Husband ate all my post-surgery diet food and called me a baby when I cried, leaving our 11-year-old to help me instead. I just had surgery on my stomach and intestines almost 2 weeks ago. Because of the surgery, I have to adhere to a very strict diet until I'm fully healed. If I stray from the diet, it could cause severe complications and possibly lead to death. So for the first 2 weeks after surgery, I can only eat, drive, a full liquid diet. The most solid thing I can eat is pudding. I can't even have soup with any chunks of veg/meat in it, even if they're soft. There's not a lot of variety to choose from and I'm not having a good time at all. Plus I'm still having pain from the procedure and some nausea, and I've had to go in for 4 fluids and iron twice now. Prior to surgery, I meal prepped for myself and for the family so I wouldn't have to worry about it after. I made meals for myself for every stage of the diet and with specific macros/ingredients to meet my needs and comply with my other health problems. For example, I have celiac disease, so everything has to be gluten-free. I also follow a low sugar/low carb diet, so everything had to comply with that as well. I also made meals for him and our son, meals specifically requested by him. I stocked up on snacks they liked and asked for. We also have a fairly strict budget right now, so I made everything from scratch to save some money. About 1/4 of everything I made is in the freezer attached to our fridge for convenience sake, the rest is in the deep freeze in the garage. So most of the meals in the house freezer are gone, so I went out to the garage to restock. All of the meals I'd made for myself are gone. Just completely emptied out. I'm really upset because I have no energy right now to make more. Living off of liquids and having anemia will do that to a person. My diet is, hopefully, progressing to soft solids tomorrow, so I was really excited to be able to eat some of the food I'd made. I asked him about it and he blamed it on our son first. Which I know is BS because the kid hates all of my special food with a passion, lol. There's no way he'd be sneaking my food. So I questioned my husband again. He admitted to it, said he'd been taking my meals to work as his lunch because he was too tired to make his own lunch before work. He has always made his own lunch up until now. He also said he was bored with the lunch he makes and my food provided variety. I am exhausted. This recovery period is kicking my ass. Before surgery, I ran a mile every day. Now, I barely have enough energy to walk up the stairs. I'm not supposed to lift more than 10 pounds, I'm not supposed to do anything more strenuous than walking. Even taking a shower is tiring right now. The anemia, dehydration, and lack of proper nutrition is making it worse. So when he admitted to taking my food, I just started crying. He hasn't been much help after surgery. My son, 11 has been doing all the lifting for me and helping me with chores and cooking. When I started crying, he got disgusted and told me I was overreacting and being a baby. He refuses to make me new meals, he refuses to help me make new meals, he says it's been almost 2 weeks and I should be able to do stuff on my own. At this point, I'm seriously considering divorce. I mean, my son and I are already doing everything on our own already. And I know my kid won't eat my diet food. Am I overreacting? Also, I just found out he's raided my non-perishable food stores in the pantry. It was mostly sugar-free jello and pudding, stuff I can eat on the liquid diet. Pretty much everything is gone, except for some sugar-free orange jello. TDLR, I am on a special diet due health issues and recent surgery. I meal prepped meals for myself and for the family so I wouldn't have to deal with it while recovering from surgery. My husband ate all of my diet food without telling me and says I'm overreacting for being upset. Update 1. I tried to read all of the comments but there are so many and frankly, I'm tired so I'm sure I missed a bunch. I apologize for that. Anyway, so it's been approximately a week since my post and I'll try to answer some questions and let everyone know what's going on. The food I had in the deep freeze in the garage was for the next stage of my diet, which is soft foods with a high protein content. Think egg salad, tender cooked chicken, vegetar, chicken chili, soft seafood, etc. Definitely more tasty than the liquid diet I was on. So maybe that's why my husband ate them. I'm still not clear on why he did what he did. I have no idea if he ate them or threw them out as many of you suggested. I did ask him and he danced around it and didn't provide any answers. I think maybe he did a combination of the two. I think he has some built-in resentment as I've had health issues since before we married. He knew what he was getting into and he married me anyway. I don't think he realized the toll it could have on him and our relationship though. He's not a caretaker, just to clear things up. I'm not sick enough, except while recovering from surgery, to need someone to take care of me. I am very independent and I do everything myself. I do most of the child care, cleaning, errands, cooking, managing money and expenses. You get the idea. He does get upset because I'm not always able to do activities with him that he really enjoys, like hiking, fishing, frisbee golf, etc. Mostly things that involve being outside. I'm very sensitive to temperature and heat makes me physically sick. I'm also supposed to avoid the sun as it gives me a rash and makes me nauseated. We do a lot of indoor activities like playing games, movies, museums, going to the gym, swimming indoors, etc. I also make an effort to spend time with him individually and as a family. Up until this surgery we have had no issues and I had no idea he would act this way. Maybe I missed some red flags. My husband has never been abusive nor has he ever done anything like this before. That's why I made the post. I was really confused because I had no idea where his attitude was coming from and thought maybe I did something. Like I stated above, I think he has some built-up resentment or something. He's always been understanding and respectful of my needs and my health and has never shown that he may have any differing feelings. Our sex life is great. He, as stated, he's very satisfied in that aspect. He says he sees that I'm putting forth a lot of effort to spend time with him and make him a priority in my life and he says he appreciates it. So unless he's feeding me a line of BS, this isn't the cause either. The surgery I had was removal of benign tumors I had in my stomach and part of my intestine. They had to remove 3/4 THS of my stomach and part of my small intestine. They got all of the tumors and are optimistic they won't return. I'll have to be very aware of my nutrition for the rest of my life as I will have malabsorption issues. The surgery was done laparoscopically so it's not as painful and doesn't require as much recovery as an open procedure. After we fought and he refused to rectify the situation, I told him we needed time apart. He went to stay at his mom's house as I don't have any friends or family nearby. For food, I made some scrambled eggs and hard-boiled some eggs to get me through dinner that night and breakfast in the morning. The next day, we talked on the phone for a couple of hours. He apologized profusely. He explained he was extremely stressed at his job and he was really worried about me and my health. I told him that is not an excuse for treating me like crap, nor does it seem like he was worried about me at all since he did what he did. He agreed with me and apologized again. He agreed to go to individual and couples therapy, which is huge because he doesn't like or believe in therapy as he's had bad experiences in the past. I also see my own therapist and have been for the last 15 years, to be clear. He also agreed to buy all of the groceries to replace all of the food he took and he agreed to make my meals for me with a little guidance as he's not great at cooking. I made it clear that if he doesn't something like this again, there will be no more chances given and I will file for divorce. He also apologized to our son for putting more responsibilities on his shoulders. My husband is now back to staying in our home. He has been doing all the things I'm not supposed to do and he's working on remaking all of my meals. I've been teaching him how to cook easy meals for him and our kids so he can do so in the future. He's been nothing but polite, sweet, loving and respectful. He's also been putting forth an effort to take on more responsibilities in the house so I'm not forced to have to do everything. I am, however, worried that this is all just a temporary fix because he wants to avoid divorce. I'm keeping an eye out for red flags. I'm not willing to put up with poor treatment. I'm just waiting for him to get comfortable and revert back to old habits. So we will see what happens, only time will tell. To be clear, he's never treated me badly in the past, which is the main reason I decided to give him a second chance. I'm really hoping it's an aberration. As for his stress at work, his place of employment is severely understaffed at the moment. He's been going to work early and staying late to help them with this issue. He's tired and cranky, which is understandable. Adding my recent surgery on top of things, and he just couldn't handle it. He knew my surgery would be complicated, and he says he's afraid I'd die or end up with complications. This is understandable as well. I'd feel the same if roles were reversed. But he does agree that none of this gives him an excuse for his behavior, and he's agreed to work on it. He says he is very satisfied and happy with all other aspects of our life together, and he says he's really disappointed with himself for the way he acted. Again, we'll see how it works out. I'm taking everything he's saying with a grain of salt.